Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I'm trying to get my hands on a bunch of the Berserk volumes, but after the death of Kentaro Miura, people are buying them up like crazy. Two is on the way, three has arrived, and I'm going to be buying volume four from a buddy. So, in the meantime, we're going to be talking about Pokemon Adventures, Ruby and Sapphire. I never read this before, but I was a huge fan of Hidenori Kusaka's writing for the previous Pokemon Adventures volumes. What I would say his strength is he is really good at writing complicated plots that a 10-year-old could still understand. So in volumes 21 and 22, we're getting into, I just wanted to show you the cool little cover cross thing, but we're actually just focusing on volume 21. So in Pokemon Adventures, I feel like he does a couple really neat things as a writer. He plays the games. I'm sure he takes notes on all the little things in the games, and you can tell he gives some thought to why are things the way they are in this game, and he comes up with a plot that is clearly loosely inspired by something about the game. So something about Ruby and Sapphire is it was the first game where you could choose between a boy or a girl protagonist from the start. In Crystal version, before this, there was a female protagonist, but that was kind of like a little cool bonus feature that was added on. But in Ruby and Sapphire, they actually kind of designed the world and the story with this boy or girl choice in mind. So if you pick the girl, then you're the new girl who just moved into town, and the guy is the son of the local professor. If you choose the guy, it's the reverse. You just move into town, and the girl's the son of the local professor, right? So they're interchangeable. What Hidenori clearly did is he looked at that and said, okay, so that what that means is these are two protagonists who go on a parallel journey, whichever one you pick. There has to be some way where they're tied together or linked together. And he comes up with a really elegantly simple way of doing this, that they actually have a very early childhood connection that they don't know about. They've forgotten that they knew each other as young children, and that's kind of becoming a destiny for them in their teen years or in their coming of age story. The other neat thing he does is he has a final battle with multiple fields of battle or multiple theaters of engagement, where several different sets of characters are each trying to accomplish one thing to stop the bad guys, and all of them have to succeed for good to triumph over evil. The closest thing I can think of is how in Lord of the Rings, everything comes down to Frodo being able to throw the ring into the pits of Mount Doom. At the same time, Aragorn is trying to free Gondor from the rule of the steward, the false king, and Aragorn basically goes on this fool's errand to attack Mordor with no knowledge. He has no clue whether Frodo's alive or dead. He's basically doing it just in the hopes that maybe it'll give Frodo a chance. So what that means is there are multiple characters doing multiple things that are actually useful. Even though it all comes down to Frodo, the other characters, what they do serves a purpose. So there's this really interesting, as I'm describing it, you're going to be ridiculously surprised. It's about 20 characters doing six things all at the same time. But his final talent that he's really good at is laying out the details of what's happening. So when something complex starts to happen, he always foreshadows the important critical pieces of information first. We've got to get a letter to Mr. Steven. Well, who's Mr. Steven? Well, he's the Pokemon champion, so he's going to be a really important character. We have to find this tablet and discover the mystery of the tablet. Well, who's got the tablet? Well, this little blind kid who knows how to read Braille, and the tablet's going to serve some magical purpose. He basically, if he just threw all this at you, it'd be extremely complex, but he works in every little detail one at a time in a really admirable way. So one thing that happens is he wants to make sure to use all of the cool characters from the games, even if they don't get developed or fleshed out that much. The Elite Four have to be cool because they're the Elite Four. So they basically show up right at the end to try to contain Kyogre and Groudon, who are having an epic battle and are threatening to destroy the world. And the Elite Four are led by Steven, who we'll see more of later. Now, this is torture to me, but Ruby is the boy trainer and Sapphire is the girl trainer. Both Ruby and Sapphire have trained under a gym leader, Wallace and Winona, and both of them get kind of an epic pep talk from their sensei at the same time. And then what we find out is both of them have a childhood trauma that they're trying to reconcile. They don't know this, but they actually knew each other as little children. So the artist changes the style to this very what's called symmetrical look, which shows the direct parallel between the two. So getting back to Hidenori Kusaka, he has two basically like blank slate characters without much personality, just basically two simple little designs to work with. And he thinks, okay, well, either of these guys could be the protagonist of the game. So I want both of them to be the protagonist of the manga. So I'll have both of them have a directly connected childhood experience. Both of them had something happen to them when they were little kids that shaped who they were. So what we find out is that Sapphire, the tomboy, was actually a sweet little girly girl when she was a little kid, and Ruby, the femboy, was actually a tough, manly little guy when he was a tyke. So what happened? Why did their personalities completely change? What we find out is that Sapphire got attacked by a Pokemon. Ruby went in and kicked some ass and got injured. And Sapphire was like terrified of him. So both of them are hurt by this childhood experience. Ruby feels like being manly made him dangerous or made him scary or hurt his friend. So he copes with that by suppressing his manliness and being very effeminate. Sapphire feels like being weak and timid hurt this boy's feelings. So she compensates by making herself as tomboyish and masculine and outdoorsy as possible. So basically, both of them have suppressed how they are naturally and created a fake personality based on childhood trauma that are directly the opposite of each other. It's a little it's a little silly and on the nose, but I kind of respect I respect it for basically giving both of them a reason for being there's a reason why they are the way they are. They just aren't that way for no reason at all, or just because it's fun and silly to have a femboy and a tomboy in a romantic entanglement with each other. They both have a something in their childhood informing that. Also, this was hinted at earlier. We knew that Ruby had something in his childhood that he called his most painful memory and his sweetest memory, all at the same time. Now, originally, I thought that had something to do with his dad and his difficult relationship with his dad, but this is what it turns out to be. I actually don't like this too much. Like, it's a little bit too silly, even for me. However, it was well foreshadowed, and artistically, it was also well executed. So, jumping ahead, Steven, the Elite Four champion. The Elite Four, kind of like in this, are just like four like badass fighters. But since Steven's the champion, we have to give him a little bit more of a connection or like a human side. So Steven was actually the protege of Wallace, the gym leader, right? And he kind of makes the point that, well, the only reason I'm the champion is because Wallace stood down, which gives him kind of like these real feelings of respect for Wallace, maybe some feelings of insecurity where he's technically the champion according to his title, but he's not necessarily, basically being the champion, you have to be kick butt to become the champion, but that doesn't necessarily make you the most kick butt person on the planet. And he's basically leading the effort to find this relic, release these 3 semi-legendary Pokemon so they can contain Kyogre and Groudon to give the heroes time to save the world. So you see what I'm saying about like multiple characters doing a really complex scenario, and then Sapphire reveals that, oh, you were the guy who was supposed to be giving a message to this whole time. So this whole time we've been hearing about she's got to find Steven. She's got to find Steven. Finally, she finds him, and they decode the little Braille puzzle on the fly. Jumping forward again, now there's like a super explosion that like sends them to an alternate dimension or field of time. It's sort of like being stuck in the hyperbolic time chamber in Dragon Ball. So Ruby and Sapphire, they've got to get training. They got to take a level in badass so they can come back even stronger to stop the 2 legendary Pokemon from destroying the world. One, it's kind of like the suave and debonair guy, was the trainer of Wallace. So it's sort of like you train with this master, and then you go and train with your master's master to get even more badass in your kung fu skills. Look at this. The 3 semi-legendary Pokemon show up. So all of the cool Pokemon need to have their moment in the sun, because any Pokemon, this is kind of like cool from a writing perspective, since any Pokemon could be one particular kid's favorite Pokemon, or any trainer or gym leader could be one particular kid's favorite, All of them at least have to have a moment in the sun, even if they're not the protagonist or even if they don't steal the show. So all of this is basically just to buy the heroes some time. Jumping ahead, Juan basically makes the point that in order to kind of achieve a higher level of mastery, you need a sort of spiritual awareness or maybe kind of like a calm understanding of your Pokemon. You need the mentality of the fighter, not just the physical skills of a fighter. And Sapphire is more naturally gifted at it. Sapphire kind of like picks up quickly on being aware of the world around her, being aware of her Pokemon's feelings. And Ruby, who's probably the more gifted fighter of the two, is a little slower on the, I would guess, like the mentality or the spiritual side of things. So this it leads into kind of like Ruby having a struggle to kind of like awaken his what would it be, kind of like wisdom or his mindset as a fighter. And we get another little explanation. Why does Ruby have this stupid hat that he wears all the time? It's because he has those scars from childhood that he's trying to hide. So again, Hidenori looks at the characters, he looks at their visual designs and aspects, and knows, well, this kid has a weird hat on his head. That should be important. There ought to be a reason why he has this dumb hat on his head. And I even like the detail that it pops off his head a little bit, only now as he's kind of like becoming a man. This whole time he's had his head completely covered, and now we're getting our first little glimpse of the man underneath the exterior. Meanwhile, multi-stage, multi-theaters of combat. This is World War II levels of complexity. Norman, his dad, is training Will, who's like this little kid with cancer. And Norman is kind of like a tough father figure where he wanted to raise his kid to be like a tough battler. And it was sort of like, because he was too much of a helicopter dad or too much of a tough football coach, it's put a little distance between him and his son, even though he loves his son. And at one point, Norman told Will, "You're too sick. You're never going to be a Pokemon trainer." So ironically, Norman doesn't get to go on this adventure with his son and have like a father-son bonding moment. He has to take Will to find Rayquaza again, so they can use Rayquaza to attack Kyogre and Groudon and save the planet. Multiple fields of combat. But what's ironic about this is Norman didn't believe in Will at first, and now Norman is having to be a father figure to Will because he's not he's lost the opportunity to have this moment with his son. Norman and Ruby have kind of like made progress. It's sort of like they talked it out and they figured out what they were fighting about as a father and son. And because of that, it's like Norman is better able to be a mentor for Will because he's learned how to be a better father for Ruby, even while Ruby is off having his own adventure. Sapphire confesses her love feelings to Ruby. Okay, what's neat about this is there's also a little romance, but you can kind of tell that when you have like 10-year-old and 11-year-old readers, some of them are still at the phase where girls have cooties, right? So it's there. It's just not the most important thing. Like there's not a lot of smoochy kissy face stuff. It's just like a cute little, oh, that's so sweet. She confesses her feelings to him. Spoiler. Now, Sapphire, his problem is that as a very young man, he was a manly little boy. He's kind of developed, he's hidden that in this effeminate and I would say more aesthetic personality. He competes in beauty contests. He loves aesthetics. He loves photography, but it's almost like he's suppressed that manly side of himself. And this climaxed with Ruby refusing to help Sapphire fight evil, and Sapphire basically called him a coward. Now it's like Ruby is overcompensating. Before he was afraid to go in the battle. Now he's going to be a kind of like a macho self-sacrificer, and just he shoves Sapphire off of the Pokemon so he can go fight alone, right? So just as at this moment when Sapphire was saying, we're going to go do this together, I love you, we're going to fight and accomplish this together, Ruby feels like, nope, I can't take the girl I love into this situation, so I'm going to be kind of a noble idiot and take it all on myself. He's pushing in the extreme opposite direction of where he was before. So I love it. I love the complexity of it. We basically have like about probably 25 characters at this point, all engaged in separate battles and training missions leading up to the final climax. So that's Volume 21. I'll be reviewing Volume 22 soon, and hopefully Berserk is coming. With that, I'm number one Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.